Hello and thanks for joining the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the show, let me remind you that it's just 87 days to the conduct of the 2019 general election. And as the poll draw nearer, we expect that we'll be giving you in-depth analysis of events as it unfolds. Now, Labour insists governor must pay 30,000 naira minimum wage or forget re-election. APC to sanction ministers, senators over litigation orders. Others withdrawal of cases against party. And later on the show, Defense Headquarters accuses Amnesty International of undermining fights against insurgency as insurgents invade army base in Borno, killing soldiers. I'll be hanging out with Asuko James, Emeka Madunagu, and Adeni Kuno. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Many thanks for joining us. After countless meetings and endless negotiations, the new minimum wage issue is still unresolved. A presidential intervention to settle the matter once and for all could not get the desired result as the meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and state governors in Abuja on Monday ended in another deadlock. This is largely owing to state governors' refusal to agree to pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage agreed by the tripartite committee. But organized labor has vowed to fight on. The Nigerian Labour Congress insists that governors must pay or forget re-election in 2019. Who blinks first in this showdown? Nii, let me start from you. And looking at 30,000 naira, let's say the federal government can pay or agree to pay 30,000 naira.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for you to say across board. That's all states. Yeah. You know, people will talk about governors' security votes, people will talk about cars, they will talk about, but the reality on ground is that some states basically cannot. And what I want to ask you is that, why is it that we have a fixed minimum wage across board? In Lagos states, how do you call the standard of living? Yeah. It's different from Malaysia. The standard of living in Malaysia is different from Zamfara states. Why do you have a unified minimum wage?
I think it has to come from understanding the defective kind of federalism that we operate in this part of the world. Permit me do a verbal journey to the United States of America, where you have different wages across the different states of the U.S. At some point, most definitely. At some point, you have people earn like $18 per hour. Some states pay $15 per hour. And we know that about some weeks back, we had some issues with, maybe an increase in the amount paid by a certain organization. Let me leave the name out of this show now. The point remains that in this part of the world, we have a system where at the end of every month, when the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Committee sits, certain amounts are doled out to the respective states. So when you talk about the system we operate here, there is no question in the fact that the governors must do all they have to do to pay the amount. Because if we had a system where the respective governors, for instance, maybe more or less have been allowed over the years, or they were able to think out of the box, we would have this complaint. But since it's a collection and bring back home strategy, then you have to agree. So if every state governor usually agrees to go to the center to collect, it is going to be difficult to have them want to pay something different from one another because they all go to get from the what? From the center.
But they don't get equal amounts.
No, the point
some get derivation, some...
I agree with you that they do not get the same amount, particularly for oil-producing states, which of course gets extra 13%. But it must be said that in the overall, we're talking about a system where people go to collect certain amounts of money. And we're talking again about a system where those who are elected representatives get into office with humongous amounts and monies that at times when you look at it, it's difficult to fathom. So when you're talking about the life of the people who work for the greater part of the year, and when it's time to let them get a living wage, it becomes impossible. I think it's going to be difficult. Then again, if you look at this, the respective states of this country have the capacity to develop its natural resources. I want to go to the northern part of the country and tell you here, Ozumbaku, that there's an abundance of solid minerals that these state governors have not developed over the years. Everybody have been or has been subsisting on the oil from the southern part of the country. So in addition to the problem of not having the financial wherewithal to pay, it also has to do with their inability to develop what they have. For instance, Lagos is a coastal state. It has leveraged its maritime capacity. It has leveraged perhaps the presence of industries and the human resources as well.
Okay, that would be your opening salvo, but not forgetting the fact that some of these states are also limited by, in terms of the constitutional provision. You cannot access your natural resources. It's an exclusive preserve of the federal government.
But there can always be something worked out, I agree.
Yeah, of course. The states cannot access natural resources, but that doesn't mean they can access creative resources in their states.
Absolutely.
You have landlocked countries in this world.
Mali is one.
That
Burkina Faso
have been able to creatively, internally or in collaboration with foreign partners, foreign development partners, have been able to creatively solve their problems. Nothing stops governors from thinking in a revolutionary manner. Nothing stops governors from cutting down on waste. I tell you what, you see, the governors really don't want to be honest with Nigerians. There's a state I won't mention here. You can imagine in a whole year, this same state declared revenue from haulage fees at 250,000. He said that was all it got from all the trucks, all the vans that carry goods to the state.
As a joke.
In a whole year, 250,000. That was said by a commissioner at an open meeting. Now they had to bypass the consultants, the myriad of consultants that the governor appointed, and reach out to various groups in the haulage business to try and increase revenue. You find out that when governors are elected, traditional rulers send people to them, politicians send people to them, and because they can't pay everybody, so what they do is, okay, that's all right, you will be special assistant on revenue generation in charge of this market. You in charge of this place. Now, these people go to traders, or they employ you employ youths, let me not call them thugs, they employ youths with spikes on the road, and harass truck drivers, car drivers and all that. Now, to extort all kinds of money from them. But you know where the problem is? How much of this money, even though illegal, how much of it gets back to the government? I've watched some of these people collecting money in a market, and I saw people collecting money, cash. And one of the officials was holding money, a lady was holding money this way. I'm moving about in the market and I'm just collecting, 2,000, 3,000. And at the end of the day, who accounts for the money? Who gives you the actual figure that was collected? And then you say you cannot pay 30,000. If that amount is even scandalous, because even if, like the opening, question, asking why do we have a uniform minimum wage? Governors were there when the constitution was being reviewed the last time, and they did nothing. They said nothing about it. You talked about natural resources. We need to review the constitution. Governors were there, and they kept silent. So you see, it's like a conspiracy of the ruling elite against the people. Those things that they can do to make this country better, the ruling elite conspires to make sure that they do nothing, little or nothing about it, about those things, so that they can keep Nigerians subservient and hungry.
Let me allow Asuko. Asuko, still back to the question I asked Nii. This is a situation that it's quite worrisome now. And as of last week, a newspaper carried that report that I think it's only Lagos states or so
that can actually pay that amount now.
Pay that amount. Now, the understanding, what I gathered was at 24,000 naira. Some people are talking about 24,000 naira.
And the governors are saying 24.
24.
The governors are saying 22.
500.
22, I think the federal government said 24.
there's a private sector, the Economic Council.
Yes.
They're the one that's saying, okay, that's what the private sector representatives say, 24,000. The federal government is insisting 22,500.
22,500.
But Labour has been insisted for 30,000. Yeah.
When you check inflation rates in 2011 and 2018,
Yes.
if the last time I checked, I think in 2011 it was single digits.
Yes, it's double digits.
It's double digits
At the moment,
Yes.
I think we are doing
11.
15 point something.
No, 11. 11.
11 at the moment.
Yes,
But
11.
you have to also understand that the exchange rate has gone in excess of about 400%.
You know, so if you look at all this, the governors have not, shown the capacity that they are really broke. And that is why Labour is going. Because if you look at because if a governor is traveling, he goes on a chartered flight. It doesn't
Like 20 million.
It doesn't.
Chartered helicopter.
A governor will not go alone. He will go with aides. So he's going with a chartered flight. He won't say, okay, please, airline, just like we are traveling. Please, I need maybe
Or the way we-
cheapest tickets. Let me use that word.
At a discount.
At a discount, because I'm going with aid 1, 2, 3, 4, including myself, at economy class. I'm not business
Economic
class.
For where?
You understand? So the governors have not shown us that they are really broke. And just like you are saying, it is only Lagos State that is making money outside whatever they are getting. And it is very worrisome. Because if the governor, but to me, I still think that there's a lot in all the states in the federation that they can make money from. And that is why Labour is saying that you can't tell us that you can't pay 30,000. Don't forget, Labour started with 66,000. Before they now said, okay, fine, we are going to meet at a particular point. And that point is now the 30,000. So it means Labour has reduced it by 50%. So where is the governors reducing their own? They still want to maintain 18,000 that they can't even pay.
I'm trying to talk about the reality on ground.
No, the reality.
How many? Now, some state governors, that 18,000.
So what is the reality?
The reality on ground is that the governors have not shown. Listen to my. They have not shown the capacity that they are broke. Because if you tell me that a governor who goes out every time he's going out, is distributing money, is going with a chartered flight, and is carrying a convoy, like 5, 6 cars, all, you understand, with fuel and everything, you can't tell me that governor is broke. If you tell me that a governor is going alone, maybe an outrider and maybe one vehicle behind, that is any governor. Yeah, wait, first. See, that is to tell you that they are
so
cutting their coat according to their clothes now. Then from
a governor with one outrider and a vehicle.
You understand what I mean?
That's true. I
You understand? But they have not.
Who is a
They are all
Nigeria?
showing
He's a
us.
servant.
They are all showing us
is a
that
servant.
it is
A
business
public
as usual and that money is there so we can spend.
Yes.
Lee,
Yes, please.
looking at what I'm saying here,
Yeah.
18,000 naira, and we have those states that still defaulting on that 18,000 naira. And I know of a state that is not as 18,000 naira, the level 01, it's not as if that will be graduating.
Yeah.
No, at the point in time, they looked for a way around it. You know, if the lowest person is level 01 is taking 18,000 naira, maybe a director level is expected to take like 200, 300,000 naira, but that wasn't the situation. Now, when we are saying this 30,000 naira and the Nigerian Labour Congress, it's 87 days or 86 days to the election.
Yeah.
And they know that this is the time to strike. This is when it's going to be hot months. You know, so holding the federal government to ransom kind of. And what do you expect?
Well, I like us to understand the fundamentals in this argument because it's very important we bring the individual aspect so that the viewer can understand what we're saying. It is according to law that every 5 years you do a review. That is number one.
That's again.
As of 2015 of August, that simply means it was due for a review.
Yeah.
The federal government as of that time never deemed it fit in the first place to call the labor representatives and say, we know it is due, could we have a discussion and review? Nobody talked about it. 2016, where you should have an effective amount in place, nobody mentioned it again until they started scratching their skin and telling them, we will go on strike. Now, one of the most one of the heights of indiscretions in these, negotiations for me was when Dr. Chris Ngige, about 2 months and 3 weeks ago, issued a white paper. Negotiations were still on. There were disagreements. Rather than actually eat the humble pie.
Okay, let me pause there to take my first caller. Babajide from Lagos. Babatunde from Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, thank you for joining us, Tunde.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution, Tunde.
Listen, what I just want to contribute about this is this. This governor can pay this money. First and foremost, are you hearing me?
Okay.
Yes.
First and foremost, where are they saying the billions they are stealing from? If they cannot be able to pay that amount of money. Even Lagos State is not even paying 18,000. Confirmed it, they are paying 12,005. So I think the labor is right. Either they pay that money or no re-election. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was saying something that
Pay the
there are
money or lose the election.
There are certain things we must iron out. Whilst the Labour and the other people were back and forth, something interesting happened. Dr. Chris Ngige, issued a white paper where he criminalized going on strike. He talked about the fact that if an employer actually...
No work, no pay thing.
Yes, no work, no pay. And I felt that we're talking about trying to find solutions to the problems of the country. And that's when you deemed it fit to issue a white paper. I think it was even at that point that Labour got very angry. And do you know what Ayuba Waba said? He said the 30,000 was not even an idea of Labour. That was what the governors eventually had to come to because they felt they couldn't pay the 60,000. So if behind closed doors you agreed, and as a matter of fact, Labour came out to announce that this is the position that we have, that is 30,000. 24 hours afterwards, Dr. Chris Ngige came out and refuted that wasn't their position. And I remember Ayuba Waba getting very miffed that how on earth could he say that, having agreed behind closed door that that's the amount they're going to operate with. So I think first that governance is about responsibility, and that is where the leadership of this country has really disappointed. And let us say this, if you even look at the Nigeria Governor Forum that appears to be the body speaking, we do not recognize the Nigeria Governors Forum in law. So who gives the authority to the Nigeria Governors Forum to say that is their position? According to law, they don't exist. So we need the governors to follow the bidding of the man that represents Labour, go back to your state, and let's have a harmonized figure. Because it is sickening to continue to have these discussions because it is not living wage to even pay 30,000 after all.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here? We have to be creative in our thinking. President,
We're talking about a deadline of December. December.
I will answer your question. Don't
That
worry.
is either you pay us or we
don't
won't
worry.
vote for
I'll answer
you.
your question. President Muhammadu Buhari, in the early days of his administration, brought out the idea of bailout funds. Where did the money come
They've
from?
paid 3 tranches. Let me
Where
remind
did the
you.
money come
3
from?
tranches.
So by now
Right?
they would have cleared.
No, where did the money come from? Let me tell you, it's about being creative. Trying to beat about the bush, they're only trying to buy time. But it's only going to get worse. Because don't forget, Christmas is approaching. So the governors should know that the federal government and the state government and the local government have just one chair, one seat on the tripartite committee. Organized labor has another seat. Then the organized private sector has a 3rd seat.
Yeah.
So the federal government, the local government, state governments had better come together and agree on that 30,000. Let them meet labor because they should not let this thing get out on the streets and then Nigerians, hungry, poor, jobless Nigerians get incensed. You never can tell what could come out of it.
Ultimately, I'm looking at the political fortune, the political parts now. The All Progressive Congress.
And the PDP, because
there might be a kind of
Abga in Anambra too.
so they are
there
all
might
there.
be a kind of backlash against the ruling party if this is not properly handled.
That is where the federal government has to come in. They shouldn't allow the state government to detect to decide and direct
This discussion
at all.
Yeah.
If the president has to step in and
They're
say,
all
okay, fine.
stakeholders.
Yes, we know.
They're like
listen,
joint stakeholders.
Ayo,
So the federal government cannot decide
it is
for
87
Ekiti State
days-
or Osun
It
State.
is 87 days to the election. And one day in the life of every politician is very important. This is not, we are talking about strike versus votes right now. Because by the time it gets to that December 31st or whatever, if NLC decides to shut down the economy and shut down the country, it will be disastrous for the ruling AP and the governing APC. Because, and that is where the federal government or the president has to start saying, Ngige, step aside. Whether he wants to bring the VP or himself, assert that authority, lead the negotiation. Because I think the NLC is beginning to lose confidence in the minister.
That's true.
Because then once you say one thing inside, and you come out and you say another thing, you have turned yourself to two-face. Yeah. You understand? So the best thing is let the president come out, meet with Labour, meet with all of them, and then they should agree. Perhaps they might even listen to the president, because the president is someone they will trust.
I believe so.
You understand? So if the president says, okay, fine, Mwaba and co, I can't give you 30,000, but I'm showing you that I can give you 20-something thousand or 27, or they can reach an agreement. Let the president come out and say he should not send his lieutenants, because that is where the problem. Because at the dot on the December 31st, if Labour shuts down the economy, we will not be talking about APC will be struggling to convince Nigerians. They are already doing that now. They will be struggling again to convince Nigerians to vote for them. So the president and his handlers and everybody around him, they should be talking to him now. He should be the one to talk. He should leave Ngige and co. Let them go and sit down somewhere. Let the president step in, call Labour together. Maybe Ama People's committee, they can reset it again, however he wants to do it. They can even call them. Let them sit.
The governors are saying that, okay, if you are insisting that we pay this 30,000 naira, we have to downsize.
Well, the point is that's going to be even more disastrous for them. Let's begin by saying that the federal government has released 3 tranches from the Paris Club refund to them. And I remember that each time the president is to ensure this money gets to them, it has always been, please let it go into the payment of salaries. But you see, for many of them, it has been a
Yori is calling us from Lagos.
Yes,
excuse me.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, thank you for joining us, Yori.
Thank you, Andia. I think this is the time now, not Yori or Ilori.
Ilori? Okay. Oh, sorry about that.
Yes. This is the time to bring down the high cost of governance in Nigeria. I don't know why Labour did not even put that in it. This is the time. Someone was saying that government can pay. They can pay. Let us hold them responsible. Let the president look into it and bring down the cost of governance. The senator, the House of Assembly, his own salary. I think he cut his own salary that time. Why can't he do it and make that possible that all government officials come down with a high program of, what do you call it, expenses? We are not going anywhere with this older than thou attitude. President to come up with a solution to this matter.
Finally, solution. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you for calling.
Yes, I was talking earlier that if there's a downsize in the number of workers, it is going to be very disastrous. Let us understand first that more than half of the state governors across the 36 states of the Federation are behind in terms of paying salaries and pensions. So who are the persons that you intend to downsize? The people that are already aggrieved that you've not paid their salaries? These things are very important, I should say. So it is very, very essential at this point to map all these issues out so that they can...
Looking at efficiency here, how about those redundant ones?
But
that governors having 1,000 aides.
When I saw that said by governors, I burst out laughing because one of the things that governors do when they are leaving office, is to load the civil service in their state with new employees, with new teachers, with all kinds of people. In fact, there are people they keep on the fringes.
Their family members.
There are people on the fringes who are not on the payroll of the civil service. But when the governors are leaving, they pick from those ranks and flood the civil service with them. So who are they going to sack?
All right, still to come. APC to sanction ministers, senators over litigation. Others withdrawal of cases against the party. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay with us. It's still Journalist Hangout. In case you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from Television Continental here in our headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. It is certainly not the best of time for the All Progressive Congress, that's APC, as the governing party continues to battle post-primaries backlashes. But the party has decided to wield the big stick against aggrieved party members. The APC National Working Committee has threatened to sanction members who abandon the party's resolution mechanism to seek redress in law courts. After a meeting in Abuja, APC National Publicity Secretary Lanre Issa Onilu frowned at such actions and advised aggrieved members to withdraw all court cases, take advantage of the reconciliation committees, or face sanction. Asugo, let me start with you here. Because of the primary election, I know some states, some governors actually went to court. Some took INEC to court, some took the party to court, and some candidates or some aspirants that lost out in the direct or indirect primaries actually in courts to get,
injunction and law.
Yes. And is their right. Anybody will tell you that is their legitimate right. But there's always an appeal committee. When you finish the primary, there's always a primary appeal committee. And if that one is not working, and APC, they've kind of set up a reconciliation committee. But we are very close to the election. The APC is like a total Babel.
Honestly, Ayo, I feel for APC right now because they are going through a lot. We are thinking that after 4 years, getting into power, they'll be able to manage all the crises within them because it was different parties coming together. Then after the primaries, they'll be able to manage the primaries. But it's like the situation is getting even worse because even when you accuse your chairman, the person leading the battle for you, of one thing or the other, it means for the party to even go into the battle itself, some people who are supposed to be the foot soldiers might even work against the party. And that is what is happening. Because if you look at it, if you are taking your party to court, you are slowing down the process that will lead the party into the victory that they want. Because in every step that the party takes, to forge ahead in any state, if it's in Rivers, when they think that, they are going to win the election, either the governorship, the House of Assembly, and all that, if there's a court injunction or there's a court papers hanging somewhere in the party secretariat, everybody will want to say, who am I going to support? Instead of supporting this person, let me just go and join the other party. And that is where you start seeing defections happening a day before the election in all those states. And that is what is going to happen. And it is going to be a minus for the party. So it is good, thank God it's coming this early, for the party to tell those who have court cases. I'm even surprised about the Minister for Communication. If you know you're a good party man, I keep saying it, if you're a good party man.
I wonder why he's still a minister. I wonder why. I don't know.
If you're a good party man and you know that your party is going through a lot, what you should do is to leave whatever you are doing. Forget about that you have lost. Election is just like normal game. You will lose someday and you will win someday. You can't lose. They should even take a cue from their president. That is the president. He lost until he won. And they should always remember that as a politician, if you start early, if you win or you lose, there will be a day that you will win. And I don't know why our politicians don't think that way. They just think that, it has to be a do or die affair. But it is not like that. If they continue, Ayo, let me finish. If they continue, the APC is going to go into the 2019 election as a divided house.
Emeka, look at the situation now, and they are asking members to withdraw their court cases against the party.
Ordinarily in politics, the party is supreme. Ordinarily, the party is supreme. I mean, when you join a political party, you submit yourself to its rules, regulations, and decisions, ordinarily. But you see, in this case, even while that is an accepted norm, but again, the constitution of the country is greater than the APC's constitution. The constitution gives Nigerians the right to seek legal redress against, when their rights are breached or are breached. So now, in this case, these people have decided to seek legal redress, and they should not be denied that right. But you see, the tone of the statement by Larry Issa-Onilu is really, really unfortunate, because what you're trying to do is to foist it on them that they have no right to cry out. Even though they are aggrieved, they have no right to cry out, that they should first exhaust the party's internal resolution mechanisms of dispute resolution mechanisms of the party. But at the same time, it is in the open that a lot of things that went down during the primaries were really unconstitutional and were against the interests of even the APC, members of the APC, and even the party. So who are those who are going to address this? Already, you have removed 3 governors. You've removed Amosun, Yari, and Rochas Okorocha from the reconciliation panel. So what you are doing is already you are walking to the answer. You have already said the answer, and you're just systematically walking to the answer.
I think those ones, their names, their names were omitted because people will need to reconcile them with,
because they are the ones that will reconcile.
Yes, I agree, but you see, in politics, we are talking about politics.
Your house cannot be burned and you ask me to go and reconcile
another person.
Telling Rochas now to go and reconcile another person.
No. What is wrong with that? Is it politics? Is it politics? Okay, fine. There are some influential members in the APC today. If they were involved in things like that, would you leave them out? What I felt they should have done, where I'm heading to that, they should have first of all tried to talk to those men, those 3 governors. Talk to them, try to pacify them before you talk of going on a reconciliation drive. Because you can't be going on a reconciliation drive when Rochas Okorocha's son-in-law is one of the people you are threatening to expel. How does it sound?
No.
How does it sound? How does it sound? You first of all reach out to these people privately. I said it on this table before, that the way Oshomole went about talking to party members, agri party members, before he emerged APC national chairman, he has turned the other side of the knife. Why has he not gone to these people privately? How come he's now invoking, party provisions?
What do you make of this situation?
Provisions?
I think that I want to quote from a book that has no name. If the foundation of aggrieved APC members be destroyed, what does it portend for them in 2019?
You're quoting the Bible.
Well, that is my... That's my salvo at this juncture. But I'd like us to understand that when people have occupied high offices for up to 8 years, they've had total control of state machinery. They've been able to call the shots, be the demigods in their respective states. And there's an election. More or less like you've lived in the house with a woman for many years. She's had children for you. There comes a time where you have to treat her as a friend, as a compatriot, rather than a second class in that home. Now, I think the failure that has brought us to this point is the inability of Oshomole to actually temper his vociferous persona with wisdom. I appreciate the fact that it's somebody who is confident, he talks tough, but let's also understand that you are dealing with what we call in law primus inter pares. Those who are first among
the rest.
So you must understand that particular expression. So the inability of the APC leadership to really come to terms with the fact that you are dealing with people whose ego must be massaged with the best shea butter. As such, you have them come to the table with you so that you can judge.
Jide will refer to them as king-size ego.
King-size ego. So you're talking about the people whose ego you need to massage carefully. And even if you want to take anything from them, you've got to find a way to rub their hands so that it will be slimy enough for you to get it out, rather than want to take it by force. Let me say this, and I know that the world is watching. This problem may be part of the albatross of the ruling party come 2019. Because Asuko mentioned something that many persons are not aware of. They are being strategic at their respective ends to really make a mess of this. There are people who know they won't get something, but they also ensure you don't get it. So both of you will feel the pain of losses.
Exactly.
And that is the exact thing that is playing out now. In the first place, how on earth could you want to have reconciliation? Who is Lanre Issa Onilu compared to a Rocha Sokorocha that you are saying you have to go to court? You don't understand the capacity of the governors and the impact they have. And I'm telling you, we have to be careful. Nabina himself has spoken. Now Issa Onilu is speaking. Oshomole had earlier spoken. He said, Oshomole even said something that the world would not like to repeat, that if the president condones impunity, he doesn't condone impunity. In the first place, that's a disrespect to the highest office holder in the land. Then the aggrieved people in the respective locations. So I think very well that the solution to this problem is well cut out. It is spelled out. And I want to say it's very, very important for them to begin to look, if they have to go at night, to go on their knees, to beg these governors. We don't care. We don't want to see the videos, Ayo. Let them find a way, or else this is going to be shooting themselves in the foot.
Scott, do you agree with that?
No.
That this will substantially rob them of victory
Ayo,
in 2019?
if it doesn't rob maybe the presidential, but the states that these things are happening, is definitely going to affect them.
It's,
there's no how it's not
Ibukule,
going to
I'm
affect
also ready
them.
to work with Dakpo
Abiodun,
Abiodun, the Rochas,
with
work with
Uzodinma,
Uzodinma.
you know, or even Adebayo,
Yari with
you
no
know,
candidates.
or Yari with Yari,
no candidates.
no candidates. You understand? So it is. There's no how it will affect.
Asoko,
the
I want to
APC.
humbly ask that you permit me to interject you. If you look at all of these areas where we have these problems, the PDP has deliberately kept quiet because they know that this is going to be an undoing of self.
Exactly.
And they, for instance, River State is a very strategic state for any governor. And if you
And
look
they
at
have
it,
a problem there.
the man who is there continues to consolidate, whereas people are bickering.
Yes, exactly.
Wike is no easy horse to ride upon, and they have a problem. And the people who want to even there, in my own assessment, they are lightweights. So if lightweights want to contend with an heavyweight, and the lightweights are contending between one another, how do you get the heavyweights away?
Wike made Amechi. Wike put Amechi's foot on the ground in River State. So what are we talking about?
I can't really explain this.
All right. Moving on now. In warfare, the role of adequate funding and logistics is critical. The Nigerian army appears to be short of this in its anti-terror campaign in the country's northeast. On Monday, the Defense Headquarters accused Amnesty International of deliberately recycling falsehood to ensure the countries like the United States of America refuse to sell fighter jets to Nigeria. Acting Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General John Agim, said that the move dampens the morale of the troops engaged in the counter-insurgency operation. Soldiers are left to feel the brunt as they continue to face stiff opposition from the insurgents. Just on Sunday, many soldiers were killed and dozens were sustained gunshot injuries when Boko Haram invaded an army base in Matele, Kukawa local government in Borno State. Gentlemen, this, Emeka, Amnesty International, the reports they've been giving about, the war on insurgents in the north, what do you make of it?
Yeah, well, I feel Amnesty is an independent NGO, international NGO, that gives reports about human rights situations in countries all over the world. And I haven't seen any country that has reacted positively to Amnesty's reports, particularly talking about human rights violations, talking about as also the involvement of the militaries in these countries, in human rights violations. There's no country, not even the United States, not even Britain, not even France, will react positively to the damning reports by Amnesty International. I mean, if you take your time to go country by country, you'll find out that, I mean, the reports, if you look at the depth of human rights violations, you will know that it's a scary situation globally. So what I think the military should do is to engage Amnesty, engage them, cooperate with them, work with them. But if you continue to antagonize them, these guys are still going to do their job. There was a time some people organized a protest, went to Amnesty's office that they should leave Nigeria and all that. And I said, what is all this? Do these people understand how these things work? These reports get out there, whether they're in your country or they're not in your country, they get these reports somehow or the other. And to say that Amnesty is working to undermine the fight against insurgency, I don't know how that sounds, but that's not a very nice way to put it. I think you can insist that, okay, Amnesty, look at what we've done. Look. Put your own side of the story on the table. Nigerians will be left to make the judgment. But when you are the one making the judgment, and then along the line, if you look at the statement by Agim, he also insulted the Nigerian media. He virtually called Nigerian journalists ignorant. He said they just report what Amnesty shows at without knowing Amnesty's intention. That is insulting. That's ridiculous. You're ridiculing Nigerian media, and you expect Nigerian media to also work with you.
Help you.
Everybody feels saddened by this insurgency. We feel very sad at the loss of lives. But again, we must deal with this issue with the right, with the right steps.
Asuko, looking at this now, I think the previous reports from Amnesty International has affected a relationship with the United States of America in terms of selling of arms and everything, and they will always quote the delay law because of the reports of any human rights violation.
Yeah, exactly. If, just like Emeka said, if the Nigerian army believes that they are not violating any human rights, what they should do is they should not in any way, just like spoiling the name of the media, the local media. Because what I notice is that most times they will just go to the foreign media and then they'll start to want to launder their image and, thinking that the local media does not matter. And that is insulting to the Nigerian media, The Nigerian media is trying as much as possible to project Nigeria in the best possible way outside. And I know the number and countless of times when once a news break, we try to get the Nigerian army to even confirm or to react to. It will be very difficult. They will start posting you from one person to the other, from one person to the other. It is only when the foreign media will now escalate it. That is when you start seeing all of them. They will want to do a press conference. And then they want to now invite the local media. Amnesty in 2008, this year, they brought out reports of human rights violation. They didn't just go there and begin to write these things. They spoke with women, about 250 women that they spoke with, how they were stabbed and they were raped. So it is, when they brought out this, they didn't just go to one camp. They went to 7 towns having these camps, and they interviewed people. The way the the Amnesty International will operate is different from the way the Nigerian army will operate. And I bet you they would have gone there with money. They would have even bribed the soldiers there, and soldiers will take them to where these things are happening. That is how it works, and that is how they will also get their own information, and then they will get this statement documented. So it is left for the Nigerian army, the defense headquarters, to work side by side with the Amnesty International. Are these things happening? Yes, we know they are trying. We are very saddened that we are losing young soldiers and men. in this war that we never thought it was going to take this long, you know. Nobody is happy about it. So the Nigerian army should not, the defense headquarters should not think that we are happy. We are not.
Okay.
We are not.
These soldiers have families.
Well, I think the first thing we have to look at is anything of this nature comes up. Let us first of all understand, before we begin to go to the report of Amnesty International, only this year alone, we've had about 3 different protests, 2 from the army and 1 from the military, from the police, over non-payment of allowances. That tells you here that there's something wrong from the inside. Only this year. As a matter of fact, the last one was by some mobile police officers who blocked some roads in Maiduguri because certain allowances weren't paid. I want to say here again that in the course of my investigation as a media person, I spoke with a couple of people who have gone to Sambisa and returned. And they told me that, for instance, if you have a gun that's about maybe 48 mm, and Boko Haram has about the one that is over 80 mm, definitely they'll be able to reach you from farther distance. Now, in the 2018 budget alone, 38 billion naira has been budgeted for nothing other than the purchase of ammunition. We know very well that Nigeria will take delivery of 22 Kano jets in 2020. Now, we believe strongly that the Nigerian army continues to invest to ensure that our territory, the sovereignty of the country, is guaranteed. I appreciate what they're doing. And let us also not forget that oftentimes the reports we have that people put out, because the Nigerian army is a very secretive body. There are times when people report war or insurgency, they join them. We see before they were able to take over Iraq, before they were able to send the insurgents out of Iraq this year, we saw CNN and BBC reporters. They traveled with the army. I'm hoping and waiting for a day when the Nigerian army will allow the media in this country go with them on such occasions, so that we cannot always have to report press conferences. We will report on the spot account.
They do that.
I'm saying here,
I don't know how often,
but I'm saying here that when you are at the height of such engagements, because you need to clarify, please let us also not fail to understand this, that it is not unlikely that when warfare is on, innocent people also suffer. Let us get that straight. So if an independent body that is able to do a thorough job comes up with it, I think at times every one of us should learn some form of humility, that perhaps we need to use the report to make things better. After all, there's what we call friendly fire in the military. You could be having some training and maybe you deposited or you left bomb somewhere and it destroyed the person that should not have destroyed. They call it friendly fire. So I think that it is needless contending with the figures. If Amnesty International says 10 persons were killed by you while you were having a warfare, rather than get into gutter discussions, because at times you don't begin to rub yourselves in the mud when some of these things come out, then I think what Ajim said is a very costly thing. Nobody engages the media disrespectfully and goes scot-free. Even if this era were to be a military regime, the military did it, they didn't succeed.
No
so
way.
you do not speak that way to the media. That is completely disrespectful. And I'm expecting him to retract his statement, because we have been doing the best we could to support the military.
Exactly.
So you can't talk to us that way. It is completely unacceptable. I must say that here for the records.
Where are we going to erase some other things? He said the morale of the military guys, that's, maybe, they have low morale because they don't have the equipment to fight. Because most of these countries, through the courtesy in United States, will not sell.
Because of the reports, right?
Because of the reports. So how do we work around this?
So what is our foreign minister doing? The embassies we have all over the world, what are they paid to do? The lobbies that the government engages all over the world, foreign lobbying companies, what are they doing? If Amnesty if reports, annual reports by Amnesty can make you so jittery, and then you have many diplomats all around the world drinking coffee, and having breakfast in nice hotels around the world, and they cannot positively project your policies, positively influence foreign governments on your behalf, then something is wrong somewhere. Diplomatically, something is wrong. Something is wrong. You are already saying that Amnesty Amnesty's reports are even more powerful than the strength of the diplomats. Your entire diplomatic corps in the United States, in Europe, in the leading countries of the world, even in the United Nations. What you're saying, you are passing a very strong message about the strength of your diplomacy. And we had better be careful. Some of these things, the way they are received in certain places around the world, is just unintended. You know, they create unintended images about how we manage things here.
Asuko James, your final take on this?
No, I think we have said it. The defense headquarters must see how they can work with these international human rights organizations. They have the numbers, if they churn out this report, they shouldn't wave it aside. They should also carry out their own investigation.
That's very important.
You know, it's very, very important, because if they say somebody did anything, carry out your own investigation and make it public. Deal with these people, because that is the only way people can stop, if at all there are these human rights violations. If at all there are, people will not do this, won't go ahead and be taking their laws into their hands.
And that's our offering today. I want to thank you, Asuko James. Thank you for being part of the show, my pirated friend. I want to thank you, Mika Madunagu. And Adeni Ikuno. Thank you for coming on the show. And that's it on Journalist Hangouts. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on other platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com at TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. See you tomorrow. God bless Nigeria.